My name is Daniel. I'm 27, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the background character in my own family. The one who held the camera, not the one in the photos. The one who offered rides, spotted dinners, lent out chargers, and listened to late-night breakdowns, but never the one people showed up for. And for the most part, I told myself it didn't matter. I was the chill one, the dependable one, the one who didn't need much. That's what my mom always said. Daniel doesn't mind. He's low maintenance. I let it slide for years. Every missed birthday, every brushed aside accomplishment, every holiday where my name was an afterthought, I swallowed it with a smile and helped do the dishes after. But this year? This year broke something in me I didn't even know could still snap. My younger brother, Lucas, just turned 25 last weekend. If you heard the way my mom talked about it, you'd think he discovered a cure for cancer and was being knighted by the Queen. It's a quarter-century milestone, she said. We have to make it special. And they did. God, did they ever? They booked this rooftop lounge downtown, an exclusive place you needed a reservation for months in advance. My dad flew in Lucas's college buddies from across the country. They gifted him a designer watch that cost more than my first car, had banners made, ordered personalized cocktails named after inside jokes, even hired a photographer to take candids throughout the night like it was some kind of magazine feature. It was extravagant, loud, flashy, and fine. I didn't mind. Lucas is their favorite. Always has been. I smiled through the party, raised a toast, even helped take the damn group photo. I didn't say a word when my name got left off the family thank you post on Instagram. I didn't mention it when they cropped me out of the cover photo. I just clapped, cleaned up, and went home. Then my birthday came. It landed on a Thursday this year. I didn't expect anything major, just dinner, maybe a card, something that showed they remembered. I didn't even get a happy birthday until 3 p.m. A text. No emoji. Just happy birthday. Lowercase. I figured maybe they were planning something low-key after work. I drove home expecting maybe a small dinner, maybe my favorite lasagna in the oven, maybe just a cake. Instead, the kitchen was empty. Lights off. I heard the TV upstairs and found my mom watching a drama rerun, drink in hand. I awkwardly cleared my throat. Hey, is there anything planned for tonight? She blinked at me, almost confused, then laughed, actually laughed. You? Don't be ridiculous, she said, like I just asked if I was getting a Nobel Prize. I didn't answer. Just stood there for a second, hoping maybe she'd realize how hollow that moment felt. But she just turned back to the TV, unfazed. I walked back to my room like a ghost in my own house. On the counter sat a half-eaten sheet cake from the store. Chocolate. I hate chocolate. No name on it. No candles. No note. Just an afterthought with a corner missing, like someone got hungry and remembered last minute. That was it. That was the moment. Something in me cracked open, quiet but deep. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just walked back to my room, packed my bag with quiet, practiced motions, and dropped my spare key next to the bowl of change on the kitchen counter. No one saw me leave. No one even asked. I drove for 6 hours. No music. Just the sound of the engine and the wind and this dull, thudding emptiness in my chest that kept spreading. I didn't even know where I was going until I crossed the state line. I ended up in a cheap roadside motel with a flickering neon sign and a vending machine that stole my dollar. I lay on the stiff mattress, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many years I'd spent convincing myself this was normal, that I was okay being invisible. That's when my phone lit up. First, it was a text from my sister. Where are you? Then my mom. Please come back. We didn't mean it. Missed calls followed. My dad, my uncle, even Lucas. One after the other, rapid fire like they were trying to plug a dam with their hands. They'd noticed I was gone. Finally. But it wasn't guilt in their words. It was panic. Like something had shifted and they realized too late that they'd pushed the reliable one too far. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. I didn't want to say something I'd take back later. I just scrolled through the messages, one by one, until the phone died in my hand. I plugged it in, not out of urgency, but out of habit. Then I lay back down in the silence, thinking not just about them, but about me. Who I'd become, who I was when no one else was looking. And for the first time in my life, I started asking myself what I wanted. Not what they needed from me. Not what role I was supposed to fill, but what I needed. What kind of life I could live if I stopped waiting for people to choose me. That's when the motel room phone rang. Not my cell, the room phone. I stared at it. It rang again. And again. I didn't move. And then I picked it up. Daniel. It was my sister, Maddie. I didn't even know how she found the number to the motel, and for a second I wondered if they'd called every place in a 100-mile radius. Her voice was rushed, breathy, like she'd been crying or running. "Are you okay?" she asked, and it was the first time I'd heard genuine concern in her voice in years. Not the performative kind, not the family reunion, holiday dinner kind. Real worry. I didn't answer right away. My eyes drifted to the corner of the room where the wallpaper curled at the seam. There was a dusty air conditioner groaning through weak airflow and a crack in the ceiling shaped like a crooked branch. "Daniel," she said again, quieter. "I'm fine," I said, finally. My voice sounded foreign, detached, like it belonged to someone I used to be. "We didn't realize you were so upset. Mom's freaking out. Dad's trying to call you." "I saw," I said flatly. Maddie paused. There was a long silence, like she didn't know what to say next. I could hear muffled voices behind her, like she was standing in the kitchen at home on speakerphone and someone, probably Mom, was hovering nearby, coaching her on what to say. "We're sorry," she finally offered. "It wasn't meant to be personal. We just thought you weren't the type to care about birthdays." I let out a dry laugh. "Right. Because I never complain, I must not care." "No, that's not what I meant," she said quickly. "It's just, you've always been the easy one." That word again. Easy. It grated now more than ever. Like my entire identity had been boiled down to how little I demanded. How little I cost them emotionally. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice calm but tight. "I was easy because I thought it would earn me love. Not special treatment, just basic acknowledgement. A phone call. A cake I actually liked. But I guess being easy just made me invisible." She didn't reply right away. I heard a chair scrape across the floor. Then she said, "They're scared, Dan. Mom keeps saying she didn't mean it like that. That she thought you understood." "Yeah," I said, "I understood. I always have." And then I hung up. I didn't throw the phone or cry or do anything dramatic. I just set the receiver down and stood there, letting the moment breathe. The weight in my chest hadn't lifted, but it had shifted, like I'd taken back something I didn't realize had been stolen from me. Agency. The rest of that night passed in a fog. I took a long shower under lukewarm water, dried off with scratchy towels, and stared at myself in the mirror longer than I probably ever had. I didn't look angry. I just looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally, like someone who'd spent too many years running a marathon for a prize that was never going to be handed to him. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. 56 notifications. Missed calls, voicemails, text ranging from "please just talk to us" to "why are you being so dramatic?" The group chat had gone from confused to desperate to defensive in a matter of hours. My mom's last message was a picture of the sheet cake, now fully eaten, with the caption, "It wasn't that bad, was it?" That's what broke me again, not the callousness, but the cluelessness. She didn't get it. None of them did. It wasn't about the cake. It was about years of feeling like a placeholder in my own family. Like a utility. A spare. So I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and booked a week at a cabin I found online. Remote, quiet, no Wi-Fi. Just woods, a lake, and enough space to think. I texted my boss that I needed a break for personal reasons. He replied within minutes, more supportive than my entire family had ever been. "Take all the time you need." Seriously. On my drive up, I passed a scenic overlook and decided on impulse to pull over. The valley below stretched out like a painting, golden trees, early morning mist, the kind of silence that didn't ask anything from you. I sat on the hood of my car, sipping gas station coffee, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I didn't feel like I had to be anywhere. Didn't feel like someone's emotional crutch. Didn't feel forgotten. That was when my phone buzzed again. Just one message. From Lucas. I didn't know. "I'm sorry. I was always told you didn't like attention. I didn't realize they made you invisible." I stared at that message for a long time. Not because it fixed anything, but because, for once, it wasn't deflection. It wasn't an excuse. It was honest. Raw. Like he'd taken off the filter we all wore in that house. But before I could decide how I felt about it, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. "We need to talk. Your father and I are getting very worried. You've made your point. Now come home." Made my point. Like this was all just a tantrum. I turned off the phone, and that's when I saw the sign on the side of the road, "Cabin Retreat, 5 miles ahead." I turned the wheel, gravel crunching beneath the tires, and headed down the narrow road. The cabin was tucked away in the woods, just off a winding gravel path that disappeared behind a row of old pine trees. It looked like something out of a forgotten postcard. Weathered timber walls, a stone chimney, and a porch swing that creaked gently in the breeze. The key was exactly where the owner said it would be, under a chipped ceramic frog beside the steps. No keypad, no cameras. Just trust and silence. It felt strange, being somewhere that didn't expect anything of me. Inside, the place was simple but warm. Worn rugs, a brick fireplace, a stack of old books with dog-eared pages. There was no TV, no Wi-Fi, and only one bar of service if I stood exactly at the edge of the porch. The fridge was stocked with basics, and a handwritten note welcomed me. Sometimes you just need to disappear for a while. Hope this helps. Janice. I didn't unpack right away. I just stood in the middle of the room, letting the quiet wrap around me like a blanket. No one calling my name. No obligations. No tension riding in the air, waiting to pop with one wrong question. I sank into the armchair by the window and stared out at the woods until the sun dipped behind the trees. That night, I lit a fire, made some tea, and started reading a paperback someone had left behind. I don't even remember what it was. What I do remember is how strange it felt to feel still. By the second day, I stopped checking my phone. I left it turned off in the drawer. Every now and then I'd feel the phantom vibration in my pocket, reach for it out of habit, then remind myself I didn't owe anyone anything right now, not even an explanation. I took walks through the trails, cooked my own meals, sat on the porch for hours just listening to birds and wind and the occasional rustle of deer moving through the trees. And in that quiet, I started to hear myself again. Not the version of me my family had shaped, not the easy one, the quiet one, the emotional sponge, but me. Memories came back in fragments. Like the time I won the regional science fair in 9th grade and Mom missed the awards ceremony because she was picking up Lucas from baseball practice. Or my high school graduation dinner that turned into an impromptu celebrate Lucas's summer internship party because he got an email on the way to the restaurant. Or the Christmas I gave everyone personalized gifts and got a re-gifted coffee mug with someone else's name scratched off the bottom. I told myself those things didn't matter, that I was strong enough not to need validation. But I realized now it wasn't about the gestures, it was about being seen. About feeling like I was part of something, not just orbiting around it. On the 4th morning, I woke up to find a folded piece of paper slid under the cabin door. No name, just a message. I drove 5 hours to see you. I didn't tell anyone. I'm parked at the old overlook. Please, just give me 5 minutes. I'll wait an hour. Then I'll leave. Lucas. I held the note for a long time, staring at the words like they were written in another language. I hadn't expected him to come. He was the golden boy, the one who always stayed comfortably in the center of everyone's attention. Driving 5 hours to sit at an overlook? That didn't sound like him. Part of me wanted to crumple the note and throw it into the fire, to keep the boundary clean and simple. But another part of me, the one still tethered to the family I once hoped could change, needed to know what he had to say. So I grabbed my coat and headed down the dirt road. The overlook was exactly where I'd last seen it, an open stretch of earth where the cliff dropped off into miles of untouched forest. And there he was, leaning against his car, hands in his pockets, pacing in that nervous way he used to before a big exam. When he saw me, he stopped. Didn't smile. Just watched me approach like I was a deer that might bolt if he moved too fast. Hey, he said. I stopped a few feet away. You drove all the way out here? He nodded. Yeah. I figured if I didn't come to you, I'd probably never see you again. The wind picked up, rustling the branches behind us. I waited, arms crossed, heart thudding, not with anger, but anticipation. I didn't know what I wanted him to say. I only knew that it had to be real. I didn't know, he said. Not really. I mean, I knew things were always more about me, but I didn't realize how much it hurt you. I just thought, you were good, that you didn't need it, that you were above all that. I looked out at the trees. And what gave you that idea? He swallowed. Mom, Dad, everyone. They said you were the mature one, the strong one, that you didn't want to fuss. So I believed them. But after your birthday, after you left, I started thinking about all the times you were there for everyone. Every party, every emergency. You always showed up. But I don't remember anyone showing up for you. Not once. His voice cracked a little at the end. I turned to face him fully. They didn't even get the cake flavor right, I said quietly. He gave a weak smile. I saw the picture. I told Mom you hate chocolate. She said it was on sale. Of course it was. Lucas stepped closer, just enough to bridge the space between us without crowding me. I'm not asking you to come back, he said. I don't think you should. Not until, or unless, they change. But I want to. I want to be better. I know that's not enough. I just, I needed you to know I see you now. And I'm sorry it took this long. I didn't reply right away. Just stood there, feeling the weight of all those years hang between us like fog. Then I said, "You said you'd wait an hour." He looked confused for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I'll walk with you," I said. "Just for a little bit. Don't talk. Just walk." And we did. Down a trail that looped back toward the woods, the path quiet except for our footsteps. Neither of us knew if this was a start or a goodbye. But it was the first time I didn't feel invisible standing next to him. And just as we reached the halfway point of the trail, I saw something up ahead. Lucas stopped when I did. His brow furrowed. "What is it?" I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the thing half buried in the woods ahead of us, an old wooden bench, worn and moss-covered, clearly forgotten. But it wasn't the bench that caught my attention. It was the plaque. A small, tarnished rectangle of metal had been nailed to the backrest. I stepped closer, brushing off the layer of dirt and leaves. The inscription read, "In memory of those who were always there, but rarely seen." My throat tightened. I didn't believe in signs. I wasn't the type to read cosmic meaning into rusty benches in the middle of nowhere. But in that moment, I couldn't ignore how perfectly it captured everything I'd felt for 27 years. I sat down slowly, the wood creaking under me, and gestured for Lucas to do the same. He hesitated, then lowered himself beside me, quiet. "You know," I said, after a long silence, "I always thought that being useful would make people love me. I thought if I stayed out of the way, didn't ask for anything, helped when they needed it, they'd appreciate me. That one day, someone would say, 'Daniel's the reason we got through this.' He mattered. But all it ever did was teach them I didn't need anything, that I could be ignored." Lucas didn't try to argue. That was new. Instead, he said, "I think we all let you carry too much." "Because we could." "Yeah," I said. "You could." He picked at the moss growing on the bench's edge. "I used to think being the center of attention meant I was more loved. But now I see that all it did was make me dependent. On you. On Mom and Dad. Everyone catered to me, but I never learned how to stand on my own. I always had someone holding the net. You never did. And still, you never let me fall." I looked over at him. "I don't regret catching you. I regret that no one caught me." That's when his eyes welled up. Not performative, not crocodile tears. Just a man realizing, too late, what someone else had been carrying for far too long. "You deserve more than an apology," he said. "You deserve a family that shows up." I stood. "You're right. But I'm done waiting for that to happen. I'm not going back to fix them. I'm not stepping into that house again just to be forgotten by the next birthday." "Then what happens now?" he asked. I looked out at the trees. The wind had picked up, cool and sharp. I could feel the direction it was blowing, pushing me forward, not back. "I start over," I said. "Without them." I didn't drive home. I drove to an apartment complex an hour outside the city, where a friend from college had offered to let me stay short-term. No questions, no lectures. Just a key, a room, and the space I needed. I signed up for a therapy session the next day, my first in years. Told them I needed help with boundaries, with anger, with rebuilding after a lifetime of playing support in everyone else's story. A week later, I started job hunting. Not because I needed money, I had some savings, enough to get by, but because I wanted ownership over my next chapter. I applied to positions I'd always talked myself out of, ones I thought were too bold or too selfish. I stopped being modest in interviews. I talked about my strengths, my leadership, my resilience. Turns out, being the emotional rock of a dysfunctional family makes you damn good at problem solving. The calls from my parents kept coming, of course. Some were laced with guilt. We were just trying to give Lucas a special day. Others tried manipulation. "You've always been so sensitive." And eventually, desperation. "We didn't know you'd take it this far." I didn't respond to any of them. They hadn't reached out when I needed support. Not when I moved out. Not when I graduated. Not when I spent 2 weeks in the hospital with pneumonia 3 years ago, and they didn't even visit because it was too far. But now that I'd finally said no, now they noticed. Funny how that works. Lucas texted me once a week. Never too much. Just updates. Proof he was trying. He told me he confronted our parents, that things got ugly. That Mom called him ungrateful. That Dad said I was punishing them. But Lucas stood his ground. Said he wouldn't play along anymore. Said if they couldn't see the problem, maybe it was time they sat alone for a while. For a while, I didn't know if I believed him. But then one afternoon, I got a delivery at the apartment. A small package, no return address. Inside was a birthday card, handwritten, not from Hallmark, not signed Love, the family. Just a single line, in Lucas's handwriting. I see you. And I'll keep showing up, even if no one else does. I didn't cry. I just smiled, set it on the windowsill, and left it there. 3 months later, I was offered a position as a community project manager for a nonprofit. It was everything I wanted: purpose, independence, a chance to build something on my terms. The office was in a renovated firehouse, the kind with exposed brick and a view of the city skyline. On my first day, I walked in wearing a navy blue button-up and a watch I'd bought for myself. Not a gift, not a hand-me-down. Mine. I passed by the break room where someone had left out cupcakes. Daniel, right? A coworker said, smiling. They're for your first day. We always do something for new hires. I blinked. Seriously? Of course, she said. We celebrate people around here. And I believed her. That night, I called Lucas. He picked up on the second ring. I got the job, I said. You serious? Yeah. I'm proud of you, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. There was a pause, and then I asked, how are things at home? He exhaled. Rough. Mom's still playing the victim. Dad won't admit anything. But I'm not letting it go. I told them if they want a relationship with me, they need to fix how they treat you. They said that's manipulative. I said, no, it's loyalty. I chuckled. You sure you're not adopted? He laughed too. I might be. Listen, I said, you're not responsible for fixing them. I'm not either. I appreciate you trying. You're my brother, he said. I should have started a lot sooner. We hung up after making plans to meet in person the next week. No pressure. Just a coffee. Neutral ground. I went to bed that night with the windows open and the city lights glowing against the ceiling. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel like a spare part in someone else's life. I felt like the main character in mine. And that, finally, was enough.